Okay, first question. Let's talk about the process a little bit. Tevo7465 asks, how do you and Falcon decide which videos you will work on? Do you two have a preference of the type of videos you are in? So basically the way Before You Buy videos work is we pick games to cover that are popular, the ones that have a lot of interest, or the ones that are interesting, or the ones we think might pop off. The other thing, most importantly, is like the games that we have time for, because it is a small team working on this stuff, and the Game Ranks bandwidth is limited. You know, it's not like a big outlet like an IGN or something that has like a team of reviewers. Like Before You Buy started with just me, and then it started to branch out from there. Ultimately, I decide who covers what, sort of. Every once in a while, there's a preference that makes sense for one person over the other, because it's either me or it's Falcon and our writer Eric behind the scenes, who do a great job. I mean, most recently, the biggest thing was Dragon's Dogma 2 and Rise of the Ronin. When I used to do Before You Buy just by myself, like I would try and cover every single game and cram things in, and it was just not sustainable long term. And over the last couple of years, Falcon and Eric have really jumped on a lot. And this year, more than years previous, I've been happy to delegate and kind of give up some of the major releases. Someone else can take them on, because it's just not humanly possible to play that much video game, you know? A lot of people were disappointed that I wasn't on the Dragon's Dogma 2 video, but I mean, now looking back, the Dragon's Dogma like release, the Steam reviews, people are not reacting to to microtransactions that were added last minute, and PC performance issues. I believe the Before You Buy was done on the console version, but still, I guess I got out lucky because I got to play Rise of the Ronin. I really, really liked it. I put out another video on this channel talking about it and the Before You Buy. I think it's really cool. I also just think right now there are so many big open RPGs, Dragon's Dogma, Rise of the Ronin, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like a bunch of others. People are still playing Baldur's Gate 3 and stuff like that. There's so much out there that it is overwhelming, but I kind of went on a tangent, but yeah, that's how it really goes. So with that, kind of a follow-up question from Jay Nakazato, who says, hey Jake, could you talk about your process when doing Before You Buys, especially when you have multiple games played at a time? How do you block out time for everything and having a life? Easy. Just don't have a life and work a lot. I am not complaining, because it does boil down to video games, but also I do a lot of other things during the day. Like my work day isn't filled with playing games. I'm planning stuff out. I'm dealing with emails and boring stuff. I still like editing some of my own stuff. I do stuff for Game Ranks, but I also do stuff for me, for this channel, the Friends Per Second podcast. So I'm working on a lot of other stuff behind the scenes. So it's about blocking time and making sure you have some time carved out to play through something or work through something. But also it ultimately boils down to like me just playing late at night all the time. People always say I look tired, but I still get a good amount of sleep. It's not usually too bad, only a couple times a year when some releases kind of pile on does it get really bad. But yeah, the other thing, like the one thing I will say, and it's not like an impressive skill, like in the real world, it is absolutely useless, but doing this for so long, I don't have an issue playing two games back to back. Like if there are two big games coming and I get them both early or something like that, I don't really have any issues jumping back and forth between games if I have to, scheduling wise. It's like a weird skill set I pride myself on, like just getting used to a game's controls and the nuances and stuff, and then flipping to something else and trying to blast through that and flipping back. I don't know. Again, it doesn't sound cool now that I say it out loud, but yeah. And since I haven't said it yet, welcome to the Q&A videos that I do here. Every month, I take questions from you guys that you would leave questions for me in the comments section of this video. So when I record next month's Q&A, I come back to this video, go in this comment section, and take what I can get from there. Anything you'd want to hear me talk about, new games, old games, stuff I haven't really covered before in the past, whatever. It's a fun type of video. So the next question is from Michael Killen 3105, who says, with all the hype and controversy surrounding Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, I found myself jumping back into the Arkham games. If they were to make another Arkham series game, a fourth Batman Arkham game, what would you want to see from it? It's an interesting question, because I too re-downloaded Arkham City and Arkham Knight specifically, and I kind of dabbled in that for a while after Suicide Squad. Obviously the games are great. I've always wanted to do like a video talking about them more, but oh man, another Arkham game, right? The easy answer is to go back, right? Before even Arkham Origins, if you want to count that, and do like a young Batman thing. It could also be a good refresh for the series, where like if it feels a little bit different, it's a younger Batman. With a younger Batman, you can do different concepts, different, I don't know. But on the other hand, you could also just fill in the blanks. You could do a game that takes place between Arkham City and Arkham Knight, or I don't think that would work as well, because it deals with like the Joker thing, right? So maybe like in between the original Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. There could be something there. What I will say though is like you have the Gotham City, so you can essentially change the season, change the setting a little bit, maybe add some civilians. Maybe it's not like an evacuation system, but what you can do is continue the game. And I'm just armchairing here, but like what I would do is, since the Batmobile was already such a big, heavy presence in Arkham Knight, what you could do in another game is switch that to like a bat cycle and do some creative, fun stuff with that. It's still a mode of transportation, but it's different from Arkham Knight, and also it doesn't just like devolve into a bunch of tank battles. This is all, of course, just a big what if, because it's probably not ever going to happen at this point, but those original games still hold the fuck up, dude. Let me tell you something about Arkham Knight. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm preaching to the choir. Ooh, this is a good comment from the previous video. At Redfoot says, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League comes out, blah, blah, live service sucks. Helldivers 2 comes out. I love live service game. Gotta love this hypocrisy. I think that is an extremely bad faith comment. It's easy to just yell hypocrisy when you don't agree with something, but like, I mean, the reality is that sometimes these things can be done right. We've talked about Helldivers a lot already, but Helldivers is doing something right. It's not pissing off its player base, its customers, whatever. It is not offending players' sensibilities by like pushing aggressively to spend more money. It is providing fun, just fun. That's it. And so in my mind, like I say, like as much as it is an ongoing thing, like Helldivers 2 is like developing, cool things are showing up. I don't think of it as much as a live service game. In my mind, I just think of it as kind of like a multiplayer game because of the way it handles these things. So I don't think it's hypocrisy. I think it's just there's good ways to go about it and there's bad ways to go about it. And you can like the way some publishers handle these things and hate the way other publishers handle these things. That's it. Sometimes I clap back a little bit with the Q&As. I'll take some comments. Sorry. Now, before we keep going, let's talk about subscription services for a sec, because everybody's subscribed to at least one, maybe a small handful like me. And lately, I've been having a hard time keeping track of them all. I'm a little unorganized. I can't be the only person, and I've been losing out on money. But thankfully, today's sponsor, Rocket Money, can help out with that. Rocket Money is an all-in-one finance platform that helps you save more and spend less. No joke, 4 years now, I have been using Rocket Money to just keep on top of my finances, things coming and going, mostly going, but still. But of course, one of the big features is subscriptions. So not only can Rocket Money help break down and identify all your subscriptions at a glance, but it can also cancel them for you with the press of a button. It's that easy. No talking to anyone on the phone or doing anything complicated. It's simple. But Rocket Money also has a bunch of other features like monitoring your credit, and there's a whole budgeting feature so you can create your own budget and set notifications so that you don't go over your limits. With budgeting and stuff like that, Rocket Money just really helps you fine-tune your financial life. It's been working for me. I have it on my phone so I can check it all the time. Believe it or not, Rocket Money has actually saved its customers an average of $740 per year, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. So it's not just me. So to save more and spend less, join the more than 5 million members using Rocket Money today. Just go to rocketmoney.com/onjake or click the link in the description down below to get started today for free or unlock even more features with premium. Once again, that's rocketmoney.com/onjake, and big thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. Now back to the show. At C. Bruce asks, who are your picks for the best and worst suited comic book characters for an adventure genre that you'd like to see? So for me, he says, I think a Captain America game would work awesome and make a fine opportunity to punch some Nazis. And as much as I want a Dr. Fate, Doctor Strange game, it wouldn't work as an adventure game. It's an interesting question. I mean, I'm curious to see like what the 1943 Hydra game shakes out to be, but I do agree with the Captain America adventure style thing. There was a Captain America game, kind of a movie tie-in game, I guess, on the first Avenger movie, but it was totally different. And it was almost like a very light, like World War II Nazi punching Metroidvania style game where you ran around as Cap and did stuff kind of in like a Wolfenstein castle. It's a weird thing. People forget about that game. It wasn't great, but it had some interesting moments. But yeah, I would say if it's like a hardcore adventure game, I still always just go back to like The Punisher and how The Punisher hasn't really gotten the coolest representation lately. The new comic arcs I'm not as into, and then the Daredevil Punisher, John Bernthal's Punisher is very cool, but it's also very different in a lot of ways. What I would like to see, so I'm just going to riff now. I'm kind of going off of your adventure thing, but for a Punisher game, I would really, really like some sort of almost Hitman style thing where it's almost like you load into missions to do a special thing. So I almost think I would like, obviously, like you can make a Punisher game where you just run around third person shooting, just like mowing down people, right? The THQ game was really good for that. But I would love to see a game that kind of ties into like Frank Castle, the tactician, the planner, the hyper obsessed guy, and do kind of like, many times we've seen Frank like take siege on a mafia, compound, a mafia mansion where he plans everything and raids it and takes out the mobsters. I would love to see a game let you kind of plan, set traps, pick the right weapons, choose your point of entry, and execute, and like do that in a short period of time. I don't know. I think that would be like a fun little thing. Worst suited comic book character for a game? I don't know. Rogue. Because Rogue, you have to like touch people, and that's just not interesting in a video game. Or like Booster Gold, because everybody hates you. Who wants to play as somebody who? I mean, no, everybody liked the Deadpool game, so at Square Penix. It's a good name. Asks, question for you, Jake. Do you have any siblings? If so, do they play any video games or are they into gaming? I know you don't talk about your personal life much, but I am asking because I want to see how you got into gaming as a kid and if your parents influenced you. Yeah, I have multiple siblings. They're all younger than me and they don't play video games, like pretty much at all. But they watched me play a lot growing up. So they were exposed to like weird shit I was playing, like The Darkness or like even like The Last of Us. Like my brother would be like, remember when you played that like weird fucked up game in front of me? And I'd be like, yeah, sorry about that. And in terms of like my parents influencing me, yes, absolutely. It was specifically my mom who brought home an NES at a point. I was a child of the 90s. Technically, the NES was out of date, but I didn't know any better. She was like, here you go, check this thing out. It had Mario, Duck Hunt, like it had all the staples, Tetris, like the RoboCop game I've talked about a lot. And that really did it for me. And then from there, got a PlayStation 1 for Christmas at a point, and I found it hard to adjust to 3D games. I found them very frustrating and challenging, and my parents ended up like playing the PlayStation a lot and having fun with it. But then my mom brought home from work Resident Evil Director's Cut and was like, here, my friend gave me this at work. They said I should play it. My mom wasn't going to play that. I immediately was like, I'll take it. And I played it, and the rest is history. Some of you guys definitely out there have a memory like that. So I definitely, let me know in the comments. I want to hear. At CXRSQN says, what was the last game you played that really had you in awe? Something that felt like you were experiencing something great. Oh boy, the easy answer is probably Elden Ring, just with really kind of unpeeling by myself in a bubble how big it was. I had no idea how big it really was. And as I kept going and just realizing how big it is was just so impressive and weird. But a less recent example, I just want to riff. BioShock is one that still sticks with me. It's something I would love to experience. I would like to have my memory erased and experience that for the first time. Just the whole intro, really. The plane, the crash, the lighthouse, the walk down to like the bathysphere in the lighthouse, the lights clacking on, the statue of Andrew Ryan, the music playing, the slow version, the getting into the bathysphere, having the Andrew Ryan monologue, seeing Rapture, getting into Rapture, immediately seeing it's fucked up. It turns into a little bit of a horror movie for a while. The atmosphere, the style, the vibe, the visual designs, the Bobby Darin's Beyond the Sea kind of being like the motif or the through line for a lot of the game. Just really unique, really special. Granted, BioShock has also been top of mind recently because of an interview that I got to do with Ken Levine, his new game, Judas, the BioShock creator, with the Friends Per Second podcast. If you want to check that out, that'll be linked down below, and I'll be talking more about that soon, hopefully. Hardstuck Boom asks, Jake, why don't you upload your playthroughs here on your personal channel whenever you are completing a Before You Buy? I'd watch your playthroughs, Let's Plays. Well, the long story short of it is that I want to keep you interested. I want to entertain, and I've said this a lot, but like I really mean it. I am bad at video games. You would see uploads of me just constantly beating my head against the wall, rotting my brain trying to beat some weird specific boss. I can't look up a guide. I can't look up tips because a lot of the time the game just released or it hasn't released yet. So it's not very interesting. Also, I am not good on camera while playing a game. I have tried. It is very difficult. So I would ultimately be pretty boring. I would love to do a stream once in a while, but like a Let's Play, believe me, you don't want it. I know my lane. I know my role. I do what I do. I like doing what I do. Also, because a lot of times, like I'm reviewing a game, I'm sometimes playing it a little bit differently. I might be playing it in a way that just isn't as enjoyable to watch. Either it's me skipping some side quests or trying to get through sequences very quickly, like stuff like that. It just doesn't make for a good time for the end user, the person who would be watching that. Anyway, Weiler Feliciano, if I'm pronouncing that right, asks, hey Jake, any thoughts on the upcoming Superman Legacy? Oh boy. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, so Superman Legacy, now titled Superman, is the big new Superman movie being made by James Gunn. Kind of like the next era of DC universe, whatever. I don't care about that anymore. I'm just looking forward to a Superman movie from someone who clearly understands Superman. I think it's very interesting, and what I really want from it, to be totally honest, I love Supermans that we've gotten before. I even have talked about how I like Man of Steel, even though it's a very different interpretation of the character. What I want at this point, and what I think the world needs at this point, is a hopeful, optimistic, like aspirational presentation of Superman. I think a good Superman movie can be positive, be cool, be, hopeful, while also addressing those people who say that Superman is boring. Superman is too one note and simple. Not the case, but it takes something good to really show people that. And I think this is where that can happen. My one concern is that Superman comics are often extremely weird, more weird than people realize. And James Gunn is a weirdo, and he likes to dive into characters that are weird and embrace them and show that weird stuff. So I'm curious to see how he toes that line here with Superman. I expect him to do a very comic accurate Superman portrayal, but I wonder how far he's going to lean into some of like the weird bullshit. It's hard to like describe what I mean by that, but like if you've read some comics, even like it's just something like All-Star Superman, like you get it. It's just hard for some of that stuff. It's great in comics, but how that'll be portrayed in a movie, I don't know. He's done it before. I think he does a great job with stuff, so we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Superman, good. Avion3509 says, I wonder whether we'll get Jake's Metal Gear Solid Collection showcase video or Silk Song first. Listen, all right, I know I've been promising the Metal Gear Collection video forever. Okay, here, hang on. I still have ideas for that video, but I did just add something to my Metal Gear Collection recently that I'm going to make a whole video on, which is probably a bad idea, but check this out. Can you guys see that? Andrew, can you get like a close-up of that? This is just a preview of what is to come. This is Metal Gear Solid Shadow Moses Cologne. A little sneak preview, but we'll see where that video goes. Anyway, next question. Dragon God Dragneil says, what MMO did you play and what's your favorite? Interesting question. I haven't really talked about MMOs, but I have played a few. Number one might surprise you. No, I've played World of Warcraft probably the most. I know you probably didn't expect that, but yeah, played some World of Warcraft. I played some Guild Wars 2 for a while. And I also played The Secret World. The Secret World was a cool idea, man, and I wanted that to be so much more of a thing. It didn't last very long. From what I remember, I did fall off, but yeah, that was one. Does anyone even remember that? And I guess speaking of weird games, Qwertyish asks, is there any weird niche game you remember playing as a kid that you just had a blast with? For me personally, I loved Drawn to Life and Toy Story 3, the game on the DS. Never heard anyone really talk about it, but they were fun games to play. Hearing you play Toy Story 3 on the DS as a kid has just aged me into dust because I remember being a full grown ass adult when Toy Story 3 came out. But Drawn to Life was actually like a really fun time. For me, I'll go with that. I'll go with a handheld one, a weird one that I played that I was really weirdly obsessed with for a minute. It was the movie tie-in Road to El Dorado game for Game Boy Color. I think that was Game Boy Color. Yeah, I had rented it from Blockbuster and I was obsessed with it because the Road to El Dorado is like fucking one of the best movies ever, still to this day. If you've never seen it, it actually holds up. It's actually got a lot of adult jokes. It's a good watch. It's not just like a kiddie animated movie. It's an absolute blast. But the Game Boy Color game was something I was obsessed with. It was also one of those games where it's like when you get stuck with one game and you don't love it too much, but you kind of like Stockholm Syndrome convince yourself that it's the best game ever. Might have been like one of those situations, but yeah. Anyway, the Road to El Dorado is sick. Speaking of Road to El Dorado, I think it's time to wrap it up. This wasn't another Q&A video. It's been a long time. It's been like a pretty long gap since the last one, but I have been trying to make these more frequently. So hit me in the comments some questions you want to ask me, stuff I've never talked about before, stuff I've never covered, or just relevant news topics. You can always hit me with that too, because those are always good springboards. But yeah. Thank you for sitting around yapping with me. These are always fun to make. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. But yeah, back to work. Lots to do. So thank you guys for being here. Clicking the like button does help me. You know, and big thanks to the sponsor for this video as well. But thank you mostly to you guys for watching. So that's it. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.